What if I told you that the best war movies on Earth aren't the ones with the biggest budgets or flashiest explosions, but the ones that made actual Marines stand up and say, "That's real"? These aren't Hollywood fantasies crafted by people who've never worn the uniform. These are films that veterans watch and recognize themselves in every frame. Movies that get the brotherhood right, the chaos right, and the cost of victory brutally right. So grab your helmet, because we're counting down the 15 war films that have earned the respect of the United States Marine Corps. Number 15. Full Metal Jacket, 1987. Stanley Kubrick didn't make a war movie. He made a documentary on the dehumanization of warriors. Full Metal Jacket splits into two brutal halves, boot camp and the Battle of Hue. The first act is a masterclass in psychological warfare disguised as military training. Gunnery Sergeant Hartman, played by R. Lee Ermey, isn't just yelling insults at recruits. He's dismantling their humanity piece by piece. Ermey actually scripted significant portions of his dialogue by drawing on his real experiences as a former drill instructor. Every Marine who watched this film immediately recognized Hartman as the platoon sergeant from their own unit. The boot camp sequences are so accurate that military personnel report watching it feels like walking through their own barracks. In the second half, the visceral battle scenes of Hue City strip away any glamour war might have held. Kubrick refuses to let viewers sit comfortably. The sound design is agonizing. The cinematography is claustrophobic. Marines cite this film as the most authentic depiction of the mental toll combat takes. The film earned 3 Academy Award nominations and grossed over $84 million worldwide. What makes it legendary among service members isn't the explosions. It's that R. Lee Ermey's final scream of "You're born, you're taught to love your country, you come here to die for it," echoes through every Marine barracks in America. Veterans walked out of theaters in 1987 changed because Kubrick understood something critical. War doesn't make heroes, it makes survivors. Number 14. Sands of Iwo Jima, 1949. John Wayne's Sands of Iwo Jima became the blueprint for all Marine combat films that followed. Alan Dwan's direction captures the volcanic ugliness of one of World War II's most brutal island campaigns. Wayne plays Sergeant John Stryker, a hard-nosed disciplinarian who pushes his platoon to the brink because he knows the alternative is death. The genius of this film lies in its refusal to make Stryker likable. He's abrasive, he's cold, he pushes men beyond exhaustion. But when the cameras pull back at Iwo Jima, viewers finally understand why. He was preparing them for hell itself. The real Mount Suribachi battle sequences were filmed with documentary precision. 3 of the actual Marines who raised the American flag over the mountain appear in the film, lending undeniable authenticity to the most iconic moment in military cinema. The flag-raising scene became so powerful that it defined how generations understood that battle. Wayne earned an Academy Award nomination, and the film became mandatory viewing at Marine training facilities. Financially, it earned over $14 million domestically, making it the highest-grossing film of 1949. Number 13, A Few Good Men, 1992. Rob Reiner's courtroom thriller became the most quotable Marine movie in history. "You can't handle the truth" isn't just a famous line, it's a philosophical statement about the burden of command that resonates through every officer's candidate school in America. The film follows a young Marine lawyer defending 2 enlisted Marines charged with murder after they follow a questionable order. Tom Cruise plays Lieutenant Daniel Kaffee with vulnerability hidden under youthful confidence. Jack Nicholson, as Colonel Jessup, delivers the performance that justifies why authority exists and why it must be questioned simultaneously. The genius is that the film doesn't choose sides simplistically. It presents a genuine moral dilemma. What happens when following orders becomes complicity in murder? What happens when questioning orders becomes betrayal of command? Marines watch this film for the courtroom precision and the unflinching examination of the military code of justice. The film earned over $240 million worldwide. It won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Supporting Actor for Nicholson. But what matters to Marines is that it treats military law and military culture with respect, while simultaneously questioning its darker impulses. The film's exploration of honor versus duty became the cornerstone of military ethics discussions at every officer development program in America. Veterans report that this film fundamentally shaped their understanding of what it means to be an officer and what sacrifice truly demands. Number 12. Jarhead, 2005. Sam Mendes crafted something audacious, a war film with almost no actual combat. Jarhead follows Marine sniper Anthony Swofford during the Gulf War, a conflict defined by waiting, boredom, psychological pressure, and moments of sudden, terrifying violence. Jake Gyllenhaal's performance captures something most war films miss: the sheer monotony of military existence. Soldiers spend 95% of their time waiting and 5% experiencing chaos that rewires their brains. The cinematography shifts between the endless golden sands of Saudi Arabia and the claustrophobic intimacy of the sniper's nest. Jamie Foxx plays Swafford's spotter with intensity that builds tension through silence rather than action. What's remarkable is that Mendes refuses to show explicit combat violence until the film's final act. Instead, he focuses on the psychological warfare of preparation, the brotherhood that forms through shared uncertainty, and the bizarre humor that develops when men face potential death. The film earned over $220 million globally. Military personnel consistently cite Jarhead as the most honest depiction of pre-deployment anxiety and the strange bond between soldiers awaiting combat. Number 11. Heartbreak Ridge, 1986. Clint Eastwood played Gunnery Sergeant Tom Highway and directed the film himself, creating something that functions as both a love letter to and a subtle critique of Marine culture. Set during the Grenada invasion, Heartbreak Ridge shows a seasoned sergeant trying to prepare misfit recruits for combat while navigating a military hierarchy that doesn't quite understand the value of someone who's been to war before. Eastwood's Highway is gruff, complicated, occasionally alcoholic, and absolutely dedicated to bringing his men home alive. The tragicomedy aspect sets it apart from other Marine films. Highway argues with superiors about proper training methods. He pursues a complicated romantic relationship with a civilian woman. He mentors troubled recruits who've never faced discipline. What makes this film resonate with Marines is its acknowledgement of the trauma that follows service. Highway carries the weight of previous wars. His mentorship of the next generation comes from hard-won knowledge about what kills men, poor preparation, unclear leadership, and the psychological fractures that develop after combat. The film earned over $40 million. It balances action sequences with scenes of genuine character development that show why experienced sergeants become so essential to military units. Marines quote the film's dialogue regularly, particularly Highway's unfiltered observations about military life, discipline, and the brotherhood that binds warriors together. Number 10. Sniper, 2014. Clint Eastwood directed American Sniper, adapting the controversial autobiography of Navy SEAL Chris Kyle. Bradley Cooper delivered an Oscar-nominated performance as Kyle, a sharpshooter whose accuracy saved hundreds of lives during 4 tours of Iraq. The film examines the psychological toll of precision killing. Kyle watches enemies through a scope for extended periods, making life-and-death decisions from incredible distances. The moral complexity isn't avoided. Kyle struggles with the distance between his precision and the humanity of his targets. The cinematography contrasts the claustrophobic intensity of combat with the alienation Kyle experiences returning home to his family. Kyle became a legend in military circles, a weapon personified. Yet the film shows how legendary status becomes a burden that prevents healing. Cooper's portrayal captures a man trained to compartmentalize trauma, to convert emotion into tactical focus, then struggles when that compartmentalization fails in civilian life. The film earned over $500 million globally, making it one of the highest-grossing war films ever produced. Military audiences appreciated the refusal to simplify. Kyle's character. He wasn't a hero or a villain. He was a soldier doing a job with extraordinary skill and paying a psychological cost. Number 9. Letters from Iwo Jima, 2006. Steven Spielberg directed this sequel to Flags of Our Fathers from the Japanese perspective, and the decision revolutionized how war cinema could approach enemy narratives. The film shifts focus entirely from American heroism to Japanese defense, following General Tadamichi Kuribayashi and Private Saigo as they prepare for the inevitable American assault on their island. Ken Watanabe's portrayal of Kuribayashi reveals a general who understands he's defending an indefensible position with inadequate resources against overwhelming force. He knows the only victory possible is inflicting maximum casualties before defeat becomes certain. Shot almost entirely in Japanese with Japanese actors, the film strips away cultural filtering and presents warfare as experienced by the defending force. The humanity of these soldiers mirrors the humanity of American soldiers fighting the same battle. Spielberg's direction emphasizes the earth, the volcanic rock, the suffocating underground bunker systems where men waited for death. The cinematography is deliberately muted, refusing spectacle in favor of existential weight. The film earned nearly $84 million worldwide. What makes it revolutionary is that American military audiences recognize their own experiences reflected in the Japanese defenders. Number 8. Lone Survivor, 2013, Peter Berg's Lone Survivor, based on Marcus Luttrell's true account of Operation Red Wings, became the film that Marines watch when they need to understand what maximum human sacrifice looks like. 4 Navy SEALs deployed to capture or kill Taliban leader Ahmad Shah become compromised when shepherds discover them. They choose to release the civilians rather than execute them, a decision that costs them. What follows is an extended, visceral combat sequence where 4 operators face overwhelming enemy forces in terrain that offers no escape. Mark Wahlberg, Taylor Kitsch, Emile Hirsch, and Ben Foster deliver performances that convey the physical and psychological devastation of being outnumbered and isolated. The combat sequences are absolutely brutal. Soldiers get shot repeatedly, fall down mountainsides, experience injuries that should be immediately fatal, yet continue fighting. The film doesn't sanitize combat or present it as glorious. Instead, it shows the biological reality of trained warriors pushing beyond reasonable human limits through pain and determination. The film earned nearly $250 million globally. Military audiences appreciated the refusal to provide false hope or artificial heroism. The ending remains ambiguous and tragic. The film demonstrates why elite military units develop their specific culture. They train for scenarios where quitting isn't an option, where injury becomes irrelevant compared to mission, completion, and protecting teammates. Veterans watch Lone Survivor as a validation of their sacrifices and the sacrifices of their comrades. Number 7. Taking Chance, 2009. This HBO film, directed by Ross Katz, presents something most war movies completely overlook. What happens after the fighting ends, when young warriors become bodies that must be escorted home? Kevin Bacon plays a Marine lieutenant colonel assigned to escort duty for Chance Phelps, a 19-year-old Marine killed in Iraq. The premise is deceptively simple. Accompany the body from Dover Air Force Base across America to Wyoming for burial. What unfolds is a meditation on military protocol, family devastation, and the strange honor system surrounding death. Bacon's character makes the journey feel sacred. He ensures the casket arrives at each stop with military precision. He participates in funeral services with civilians who never served and don't fully understand what their community has lost. The film doesn't feature combat sequences or explosions. Instead, it focuses on the processional, the ceremony, the attempt to create meaning from senseless loss. Bacon's performance conveys the weight of a soldier's duty extended beyond combat into the realm of honoring the fallen. Military personnel report that Taking Chance transformed their understanding of support roles within the military structure. The film demonstrates that heroism isn't limited to combat zones. Standing witness to loss, carrying the body of a fallen comrade, ensuring proper burial, these actions carry their own profound significance. The film earned critical acclaim and became required viewing at military installations, validating the experience of those who perform the difficult work of honoring the dead. Number 6. We Were Soldiers, 2002. Randall Wallace directed this depiction of the Battle of Ia Drang, the first major engagement between American forces and North Vietnamese Regular Army during the Vietnam War. Mel Gibson plays Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore, a commander who leads his men into overwhelming numbers, expecting communication failure and rapid casualties. The film presents command decision-making with unflinching honesty. Moore knows his unit will take severe losses. He deploys anyway because military strategy demands the engagement. The battle sequences demonstrate how quickly tactical plans disintegrate when contact occurs. Wallace intercuts combat in Vietnam with scenes of wives at the base learning about casualty lists, creating a parallel structure showing how warfare destroys families on both sides of the globe. Gibson's Moore refuses to retreat even when withdrawal becomes tactically sound because leaving men behind isn't an option. The film shows his decision-making, how commanders navigate wanting to protect their soldiers against military necessity that sometimes demands sacrificing them. The cinematography captures the chaos of jungle warfare where visual clarity disappears and soldiers fight enemies they cannot clearly see. The film earned over $114 million worldwide. Military audiences appreciated the refusal to paint Moore as a simple hero. Instead, the film presents him as a leader making impossible choices under extreme pressure. Number 5. Lone Survivor. Equivalent. Black Hawk Down, 2001. Ridley Scott's Black Hawk Down presents the 1993 Battle of Mogadishu from purely tactical perspective with minimal political commentary. American Rangers and Delta operators deploy to capture warlord Mohammed Farah Aidid during what was supposed to be a brief operation. Everything fractures when 2 Black Hawk helicopters get shot down, stranding American forces in hostile territory with enemies multiplying by the minute. The film features an ensemble cast including Josh Hartnett, Ewan McGregor, Tom Hardy, and Johnny Strong as soldiers experiencing combat chaos up close. Scott's direction prioritizes tactical clarity over emotional manipulation. Viewers understand the positions of friendly and enemy forces, the communication failures that cost lives, the individual decisions that determine survival. The film presents soldiers not as heroes but as professionals doing impossible jobs under catastrophic circumstances. The combat sequences are absolutely relentless. Scott refuses to cut away from violence or provide false hope. The battle intensifies rather than resolves, and soldiers become exhausted not from dramatic heroic efforts but from pure biological fatigue. Number 4. Flags of Our Fathers, 2006. Steven Spielberg's Flags of Our Fathers tells the story of the 3 surviving Marines who raised the American flag on Mount Suribachi during the Battle of Iwo Jima, focusing on what happened after that iconic photograph. The film shifts between combat and the stateside bond-selling tour where the 3 heroes become commodities, forced to sell war bonds while mentally processing trauma they can barely acknowledge. The genius is showing how military institutions exploit symbolic victories for propaganda, while the men who achieve them struggle with survivor's guilt and psychological fracturing. Ryan Philippe, Jesse Bradford, and Adam Beach portray soldiers transformed from warriors into publicity tools. The film demonstrates how military campaigns include not just combat but psychological management of narrative. These 3 Marines didn't volunteer for the Bond tour. They were ordered to participate, ordered to smile, ordered to pretend their brothers who didn't survive would have loved touring America. The cinematography shifts between the vivid color of stateside scenes and the muted palette of combat, showing how the war continues mentally even when physical danger ends. The film earned over $30 million. Military audiences appreciated the refusal to leave the story at heroic achievement. Instead, Flags of Our Fathers completes the psychological journey, showing what happens when warriors must transform into celebrities and how that transformation prevents healing. Number 3. Fury, 2014. David Ayer directed Fury from inside a tank during World War II's final days, following Sergeant Wardaddy and his tank crew fighting across Germany in April 1945. Brad Pitt commands a force of warriors who've survived so long they've become bound by experience that civilians cannot access. The film focuses on crew dynamics, how men who spend 24 hours a day in an armored box fighting and sleeping together develop bonds transcending normal friendship. The character of a new gunner represents the audience perspective, a soldier introduced to veterans who've developed rituals, dark humor, and psychological compartmentalization that allow them to function despite constant death. Pitt's Wardaddy is a commander who loves his men while making tactical decisions that might kill them. He mentors the new gunner while simultaneously preparing him for the possibility of sudden death. The tank becomes a claustrophobic chamber where personalities collide under impossible pressure. Ayer's direction emphasizes practicality over spectacle. The tank isn't invulnerable. It gets hit repeatedly. Crew members die in sudden moments that demonstrate vulnerability. The film earned over $206 million worldwide. Military audiences, particularly Armored Corps personnel, report that Fury captures the claustrophobic reality of tank warfare. Number 2. Saving Private Ryan, 1998. Steven Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan redefined war cinema by refusing artifice. The opening Omaha Beach sequence still functions as the most realistic depiction of amphibious assault ever filmed. Tom Hanks leads soldiers tasked with finding and bringing home Private James Ryan after his brothers are killed in action. The film balances spectacle with profound character work. Each soldier in the squad represents different perspectives on war. Some believe the mission, some question it, some remain focused purely on survival. The cinematography captures chaos without becoming incomprehensible. Viewers understand tactical positions and understand why soldiers make decisions that cost lives. Spielberg cast real amputees to portray soldiers who'd lost limbs, adding credibility to injury consequences. Tom Hanks underwent military training with Marine veteran Dale Dye, lending authenticity to officer portrayal. The film earned over $481 million worldwide and won 6 Academy Awards, including Best Director. Military institutions adopted the film as training material because its depiction of small unit leadership accurately reflected tactical decision-making. The final act's extended combat sequence shows combat as prolonged, exhausting, and psychologically destroying rather than climactic and heroic. Number 1. Come and See, 1985. L.M. Klimov's Come and See presents the most devastating war film ever created, showing warfare through the eyes of a teenage Belarusian boy joining Soviet partisans fighting Nazi occupation. What unfolds is a descent into nightmare so profound that viewers struggle to process it. The film refuses narrative resolution or catharsis. Instead, it accumulates trauma without relief. The boy experiences mass murder, starvation, betrayal, and psychological destruction that breaks his understanding of humanity. Klimov's direction employs surreal visual techniques where sound becomes weaponized, silence becomes terrifying, and landscapes shift between beauty and apocalyptic waste. The cinematography combines documentary realism with hallucinatory nightmare imagery. Actors lose weight throughout production to show starvation effects. Real corpses appear in some scenes. The film doesn't present war as conflict between armies, but as systematic destruction of civilian populations by forces that view humans as mere obstacles. Military personnel report that Come and See transcends categorization as entertainment or educational material. It functions as a warning about what human beings become when restrained by military authority and ideology. These 15 films earn respect from the United States Marine Corps because they refuse to romanticize warfare or present victory as anything but Pyrrhic. They show soldiers as human beings making impossible choices under circumstances beyond their control. They demonstrate brotherhood as warriors bond through shared trauma. Which war film do you think authentically captures what combat actually demands from human beings? Which movie fundamentally changed how you understood military service and sacrifice? And here's the real controversy. Should Hollywood create more gritty, psychologically challenging war films that challenge audiences, or do we need escapist war entertainment to process these realities? Let me know your thoughts and subscribe for more film rankings that celebrate cinema few people talk about.